By the time you retire, you will have paid over $1 million to live in a house you don't own. No equity, no asset, nothing to show for it. That's not a prediction. That's already the math for millions of Americans right now. And the worst part? You did everything right. In 2016, the World Economic Forum posted a video with 8 predictions for 2030. Number 1, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. People called it a conspiracy, but it's not a prediction anymore. It's a business model, and it's running on you right now. My name is Joe. Today, I'm showing you exactly how the ownership trap works, who's getting obscenely rich from it, and why the window to escape is closing faster than most people realize. Drop your city in the comments right now, and tell me, are you renting or do you own? I want to see the ratio. Here's what happened without you noticing. Not that long ago, you'd walk into a store and buy a CD. You'd protect it. You'd play it for years. Same with a movie. You could watch the same DVD every Christmas for 20 years because it was paid off. It was yours. Same with software. Same with cars. You owned them. Then, one by one, ownership was replaced with access, and every single time it was framed as an upgrade. More convenient, more flexible, more modern. It wasn't better for you. It was better for them. A store shelf full of DVDs and CDs gets replaced with a phone with a monthly charge. That's the whole shift. Ownership pays once. Access pays forever. The average household now spends $273 a month on subscriptions. Let that sit for a second. Over 20 years, that's $65,000. Invested at historical market returns instead, that's roughly $190,000. Nearly $200,000 gone, dissolved into charges so small and so automatic you stopped seeing them years ago. That's not a minor inconvenience. That's a down payment on a house disappearing in monthly charges too small to notice. The co-founder of Netflix owns a private ski mountain in Utah. Not a house, not a cabin, a 12,000-acre mountain. He bought the entire thing. He's now selling lots on it for $4 million each, and Phase 1 sold out before they even paved the roads. Meanwhile, you're debating whether to cancel Netflix to save $17 a month. They're debating which mountain to buy next. They sold you flexibility. They kept the assets. Now let's talk about what this actually costs you. Not just money, wealth, because those are not the same thing. Take a nurse in Chicago, 34 years old, stable job, never missed a rent payment in 6 years. Over that time, she handed her landlord $115,000 on time every month. You know what she owns after 6 years of perfect payments? Nothing. Her landlord's mortgage is smaller. His net worth went up. Hers didn't move. That's not bad luck. That's the design. Rent $1,500 a month for 20 years. That's $360,000. You can't sell it, can't borrow against it, can't pass it down. You spent $360,000 strengthening someone else's balance sheet. Buy a $300,000 home instead. Same 20 years. You've paid down the loan, the property has appreciated, you have equity, something you control, something you can leverage, something you can sell. That gap isn't just financial, it's generational. Cars work the same way. Lease a vehicle for $450 a month feels manageable, smart even. Do that for 30 years and you've spent $162,000 and never owned a single car. Every few years you reset the clock and start the payments again. Buy a $35,000 car, drive it 10 years, buy another. Over 30 years, you spend roughly $105,000 and you actually own something with resale value. The gap between those two choices is $57,000 from one decision most people never question. Now stack all 3 gaps together: cars, subscriptions, rent, and you're not talking about bad luck anymore. You're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars that moved from your pocket to someone else's without you ever noticing. Small payments forever become massive wealth transfers. You're not paying for convenience, you're paying for the privilege of never building equity. After 2008, firms like Blackstone began buying single-family starter homes at scale. not to live in, not to flip, but to hold permanently in rent. The CEO of Blackstone, Stephen Schwartzman, made over $1 billion last year in compensation and dividends. One man, 1 year, $1 billion. When California voters considered expanding rent control protections, Blackstone spent $7.4 million helping defeat the measure. Not to build housing, not to increase supply, to oppose limits on rent increases. $7.4 million, more than most Americans will earn in their entire lifetime, spent in a single year to make sure your rent could keep climbing without a ceiling. He owns 5 homes. Millions of people are trying to afford one. That's not random. That's how incentives work. And it worked. The measure failed. Rents kept climbing. He made another billion. $1 billion buys roughly 2,500 homes at today's median price. Rent them at $2,500 a month, and that's $75 million in gross revenue per year, without building anything new, without adding supply, just by owning what others can't afford to buy. You are not the customer. You are the tenant, the subscriber, the monthly payment that never stops. Here's what makes this so hard to escape. 70% of existing mortgages are locked at 5% or lower. A $400,000 loan at 3% is about $1,700. At 6.5%, it's $2,500. Same house, same street, completely different financial life depending on when you tried to buy. So early buyers stay put, inventory dries up, prices hold. First-time buyers get priced out. The median age of first-time buyers is now pushing 40. Every year you wait, the house you could have bought gets more expensive and the down payment gets further away. Now picture a 28-year-old teacher in Austin. Stable job, decent income, doing everything right. Median home price in his city is $420,000. He needs $84,000 for a down payment. He has $11,000 saved. At his current pace, he's 7 years away, assuming prices don't rise, rates don't move, and nothing goes wrong. By 35, the house won't be $420,000 anymore. The rates won't be today's rates, and someone with capital will have owned that property the entire time, collecting his rent month after month. He's not irresponsible. He's a guy with a good job who can't save fast enough to catch a market that isn't waiting for him. Run the 30-year rental math. Start at $2,000 a month. Increase it just 3% annually, conservative, below recent averages. You'll pay over $1.1 million in rent across 30 years. At the end, no equity, no leverage, just receipts. That $1.1 million is a fully paid house in most of this country. It's a funded retirement account. It's generational leverage. Instead, it went to someone who understood the game you didn't know you were playing.
They didn't stop at housing. In 2019, Apple removed movies people had paid for from iTunes. Gone. The response? You didn't buy them, you licensed them. Read the terms. Tesla charges subscriptions to unlock features already built into cars people own. The hardware is there, you just don't have permission to use it without paying again. Stop paying, the seat stays cold. In the car you own. One policy change, one price increase, one corporate decision made in a room you'll never be in. Owners set the terms, renters sign them. Every lease renewal, every subscription price hike, every feature locked behind a paywall, you sign or you lose access. That's not freedom. Picture this, you're 38. Your friend bought a modest house in Columbus at 26, sold it, made $120,000 in equity, rolled it into something bigger. Didn't get lucky, didn't make more money than you, just bought something 12 years ago while you were still telling yourself you weren't ready. You've been renting the same amount of time. Rent went up 4 times. You moved twice. 0 equity. 12 years of payments. Nothing to leverage. They can sell, borrow, move, or wait. You have a lease renewal coming in 60 days. 20 years from now, this country splits more clearly. Group 1 owns assets, equity that compounded, homes they can borrow against, investments they can pass down, real control over their financial lives. Group 2 rents access to everything, still making payments at 55, still absorbing annual increases, still dependent on rules written by someone else. Hundreds of thousands spent over a lifetime, nothing to show for it but a very organized folder of expired leases. Only one group builds wealth, and most people don't realize which one they're drifting into. So what do? You stop drifting. Audit your subscriptions tonight, add them up, ask which ones build anything for you in 10 years. Cut what doesn't. Redirect that money towards something that will still have value when you're 60. If ownership feels impossible right now, look at house hacking. Buy a property, rent part of it, let your tenants cover your mortgage while you build equity. Look at markets where the math actually works. The goal isn't to own in the most expensive city. The goal is to own something and get the math finally working for you instead of against you. Because once you cross into ownership, everything changes. The same compounding that was working against you starts working for you. Nobody accidentally ends up owning a home, but plenty of people accidentally spend 30 years renting one. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Maybe, but the man who owns a 12,000-acre ski mountain in Utah is going to be much happier. Ownership compounds. Dependence compounds too. The only question is which one you're feeding right now. Drop your city and your monthly rent or mortgage in the comments right now. I want to build a real map of what people are actually paying across this country, because I guarantee the numbers are going to shock everyone in this thread. If this hit different, hit the like button. It helps more people find this before the window closes further.